Welcome to Rich Conversations. Today we'll chat with Mike Hickey. We recorded inside his Logan Square apartment. We sat at his kitchen table and sipped some nice tea. You could even say we had our own little tea party. Mike had a really interesting perspective because he's spent most of his life here in Chicago, so it was just a really enjoyable conversation that I'm excited to share with you guys. So why don't we begin? All right. So I'm here with Mike. So how long have you lived in Chicago?
Okay, so I think it's about, if I had to add it all up, like 21 or 22 years.
Wow.
I was born at Northwestern, and then for the first couple of years of my life, my family lived in Logan Square in like a graystone on Kimball Avenue. And then we moved up to the far northwest side, to a neighborhood called Edgebrook, where I lived until I was 18. And then I moved out, went to college, moved to New York, stayed there for about 7 years, and moved back to Chicago, back to Logan Square 4 years ago.
Okay.
So it's two periods in Chicago,
Yeah.
split up between childhood and adulthood.
So how would you describe Logan Square?
Man, I'd actually rather skip Logan Square.
Okay.
I think over the course of the podcast, you'll have a ton of people who can tell you about Logan Square.
Sure.
But I don't think that you'll have many people who can tell you about Edgebrook. And that's what I would like to focus on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Edgebrook.
Over the course of this podcast, try to bring it back to Edgebrook as much as I can. So Edgebrook is a neighborhood on the far northwest side of Chicago. And if you're looking at a map, it's kind of like this green little triangular tumor on top of the city, just completely surrounded by suburbs, by Niles and Skokie. And when you get to Edgebrook, the first thing that you notice is the trees. Not just how many of them there are, but how big they are. Like the tree in my parents' backyard is 200 years old.
Wow.
And yeah, there's a forest preserve across Caldwell Avenue, and that kind of feel spills over into Edgebrook. As far as I know, it's the only forest neighborhood in Chicago. We get deer and possum, raccoon, owls, hawks, the occasional coyote.
Yeah.
It's the woods. But the people of Edgebrook are mostly Irish and Italian, the Catholics. Okay. It's a super Catholic neighborhood. A lot of lawyer, small business types, but also plenty of cops and firefighters and teachers, not unlike Edison Park. It's pretty close. And that kind of homogeny really gives Edgebrook this type of 1950s small town Leave It to Beaver kind of feel, where everybody knows everybody, everybody's looking out for each other. The parents feel comfortable letting their kids run wild through the streets, and I didn't through the streets. If you're driving in Edgebrook, you will see a group of 10, 13-year-olds walking right down the middle of the street.
Uh-huh.
Everyone's in sweatpants and sweatshirts, and they all look at you. You have to wait for them to get out of the road like they're a bunch of sheep or something. Yeah. So it's a very homogenous group, but that kind of lends that small town feel. And so at the center of Edgebrook, both geographically and socially, is a small park called Wildwood Park. And it's the perfect little neighborhood park. There's 4 baseball diamonds. There's a couple little fields for football, playground, little field house. And in my mind, I have very few memories of being a kid that don't involve Wildwood in some way, like
So again, what ages were you in that neighborhood?
like 5 to 18. Okay. So like all of those formative childhood years.
And the park is like the center of a lot of those memories.
It's literally the center. Yeah, it's both literally and physically, or like literally and figuratively, the center. Like all the little league baseball games in the summer, like pickup tackle football games after church in the fall, school picnics, my first kiss, like drinking in the park, like in high school, like all of the high school fights in Wildwood. For some reason in high school, like Wildwood became like the place for all of the
to settle your disputes.
Northwest side, yeah, right. Northwest. Not even our disputes. Like it was never the neighborhood guys who were fighting. It was always like people who came in from other like neighborhoods to, Dude, I swear to God, like you get like an undercard of like 2 freshmen fighting, and then you get like the main events, like two seniors fighting, or sometimes it would just be like an all-out brawl, where the main rivalry was St. Pat's High School versus Notre Dame High School, and man, sometimes they would get this. They would just like line up Revolutionary War style, like 2 sides, and just like go at each other. It was never like, and me and the rest of the neighborhood guys are like a safe distance away, you know, like we're like in those old wars where there's like the townspeople on the ridge like picnicking, watching the battle, below. So Wildwood Park, man, is a looming figure in Edgebrook. Let's see, the neighborhood itself, it's all single family homes, but there is a small like residential district, not residential, business district.
Okay.
And is
that like your like main street with all these like small
the main
businesses?
Street would be like Hiawatha, that cuts through like right through the center of the residential neighborhood, and then the business district, in quotes, would be like Devon Avenue. It's hilariously referred to as downtown Edgebrook. It's like 10 buildings, and those businesses are probably like 5% are like chains, national chains like Starbucks, Subway, Ace. And you have like 10% are like, neighborhood classics. And then like the overwhelming majority are just these businesses that you pass where you're just like, how are they still in business? Like there's a place called, what is it called? Donegal Irish Imports that just sells like coffee mugs with shamrocks on them, and that place has been there for at least 25 years. Wow. Just how? But I want to highlight, if I can, 3 businesses, just to like give you a sense of what we're working with, what we're working with there. The first is Happy Foods. It is at the center of downtown Edgebrook. It's this independent grocery store. It's probably been there since the 60s or something. And, it's the kind of place where the Girl Scouts will sell cookies and the Boy Scouts like hawk whatever shit they're selling. And like, sure. It's just supported by people like my dad who, swear by its deli. But the most important part about Happy Foods is that every summer, every 4th of July, Edgebrook would have this parade, this little like neighborhood parade. And, you get like 100 kids riding bicycles that they've put streamers on, and like a couple dads who have muscle cars, bring them out of the garage, and maybe like the alderman is like throwing Tootsie Rolls or something. And then Happy Foods every year would have a tiger and a camel, and that they would bring down Hiawatha Avenue, and it was so insane. Like a tiger, like a live tiger.
A live
tiger, yes, a live tiger, live camel, going down Hiawatha. Yeah, it was insane to see a tiger and a camel like walking down the same street that you go to school, and man, it was wild. But we knew the times were tough for Happy Foods when one year, like the tiger and the camel disappeared, and they were replaced with a peacock, and it was just devastating, you know. But yeah, the tiger really upstaged the Alderman's Tootsie Rolls. The second business that I want to highlight is a place called Villa Rosa Pizza, and it's like the food. Honestly, I don't even remember. I haven't eaten there since like 2003 when I got food poisoning for their chicken tenders. But the important thing about Villa Rosa is that if you went in there and you ordered, I believe the phrase was a pizza with extra spinach, the woman behind the counter would close up shop and bring you to the alley where she would sell us quarter sticks of dynamite. Yes.
What?
Yes. I'm not lying. That pizza place sold dynamite to children. And yeah, that's where we would get our fireworks from, was the pizza place. I know. It's hard to believe even now. But that's Villa Rosa Pizza. That's all that's important about Villa Rosa. And then the third place is now it's called the Chocolate Shop. It's a ice cream shop.
Okay.
You know, like it's a classic, like small town, you know, like you go there after baseball games and on like hot nights to like sit in plastic Adirondack chairs out front.
Yeah.
But so it always used to have like a theme to it, you know, like December, it would have like a Christmas theme. So there would be like Christmas decorations, and one wall of this ice cream shop was always like a giant mural. So, you know, Christmas, it would be like a big Santa's Village mural, or like it would be you know, Thanksgiving scene, whatever. I don't know what they did in the months where that didn't have holidays. But I went in there like a couple of years ago as an adult, and I guess the I don't know if it was like the management changed, the ownership changed, but I go in there and the theme of sometime in the last 5 years, things got very political in this ice cream shop. So the theme of the mural was the Great Political Circus, and you know, it's this circus scene where Donald Trump is like you know, he's like a big clown, and like Mitch McConnell is an elephant, and then you have these stalls, like the amusement stalls, like the games, with titles like Benghazi, like animal balloons or something, and one of these was called the Sandy Hook Shooting Gallery, and it's just like insane. It's fucking insane for a business that relies on like children coming in to have like any reference to Sandy Hook. It's like the whole place is like if your your crazy political uncle's Facebook page was an ice cream shop. That is what the current state of the chocolate shop. But yeah. Yeah, that's a couple of the businesses in Edgebrook. Man,
all very distinct.
Oh yeah, it all just like seems so normal. Like, yeah, that's where I get my dynamite. That's where the tiger lives. Like, it all just seems so normal, but it, you know, clearly was not. That's where the kids beat each other up. Like, yeah, that's Edgebrook, man. That's a taste of Edgebrook. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's an interesting place.
So if you have an open Saturday, how would you choose to spend it?
So let's see. I mean, if the weather's nice, I really like to start my days like in the summer, like working in my vegetable garden.
A vegetable garden.
Yeah, man. This year I was the first year that I grew like a bunch of vegetables. Like,
okay,
too many to list, but yeah, like out in that patch in our front yard, we had like a ton, you know, corn and peppers and cabbage, carrots. It's like the whole deal.
Yeah.
And man, it's just like so fun, like watching it grow, creating something, and then like it tastes unbelievable. Uh-huh. Like if you've never eaten a carrot 10 seconds after it's been picked, you have not eaten a carrot, in my opinion. You've just been eating like carrot-shaped carbon. But yeah, so I like to garden. I like to start off with that in the morning, and then I don't know, like maybe like go for a run on the 606 or something. You know, like it's like I live like 2 blocks away from the 606. That's really nice. And then like I don't know, hit up my friends, see what's going on. Maybe go to like a concert or something at Empty Bottle or like the Hideout. Actually, PSA for any of your listeners who have, if any of your listeners have never been to the Hideout, you need to like pause this and go to the Hideout.
The Hideout is like this secluded spot you have to like get to, right?
Mm-hmm. It's awesome. It's very appropriately named. But the reason I'm urging people to go is because the Hideout as we know it is like not going to be around for much longer. So the Hideout is like if you go to North Avenue and Elston Avenue and you go north a couple blocks on Elston and then take a right onto Wabansia, you're like in this like industrial kind of like area with like, windowless brick factories or whatever. And there's like a city municipal, I don't know, spot where they park all like the dump trucks and the snow plows. And then squeezed in between two factories is this like little house. And that's the Hideout, and it's like this musical institution here in Chicago. And it's great. It's like it's a really small room. It's got like a small bar in the front, and then the live room is in the back. Maybe 200 people, maybe 100. I don't know. But it's the Hideout as we know it is its days are numbered because there's this $1 billion development going in Lincoln Yards, who has bought up a lot of the buildings around the Hideouts, and there's going to be like high rises there. So the Hideout will not be a hideout for much longer. So people should check it out, not just because it's won't be the same, but because it's a really cool place. They have good taste. Like their curation is nice, and it's just a fun like an interesting place and an interesting location. Put it that way. That's what I would do on a Saturday. Maybe go to a concert or something.
Cool.
At night.
When you first think of Chicago, what colors are you imagining?
Let me give you two. One that I think people will resonate with people more immediately, and then one is more of like a deep cut.
Okay. I love deep cuts.
So the first color that I think of when I think of Chicago is black, as in the color of the Sears Tower and the John Hancock.
Okay.
I love those two buildings so much, man. I think they perfectly, if you're looking at the skyline from the west, they just perfectly frame the skyline, just cradle it on either side. And what I really love about the buildings is that so many buildings are, new and old, are all like blues and greens and grays, and like even like the Art Deco, like Empire State Building types, like tans. They're all these like, those natural colors, and they have a tendency to like blend in with the sky sometimes, depending on the color of the sky. But the John Hancock and the Sears Tower just stand out. So they're so apart from nature, in a really amazing way. It's just there's no mistaking where the nature ends and humanity begins with those. It almost feels like more of like the absence. It's like two tears in the skyline. It's more of like the absence of sky than the presence of a building. It's just like these two black holes. And there's just nothing like those two buildings. You don't see that like that color. Black is the first that I think of, and then the second is brown.
Ooh, I dig this.
As again, in buildings, in like brick buildings, like they were built, I want to say like around the turn of the last century. There's just this like color of brick that I really like. You'll see it a lot. Like if the perfect example is like any gray stone in Chicago, like has like the side of it is this brown. And I don't know if it was like, they were all buying the bricks from the same place or it was the same company building. But it is a distinct pattern, the colors and the way, and like the type of mortar that they use.
So is the mortar, I'm wondering if it's the same style of brick that is my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little like multicolored a little bit.
Sure.
Is that the same one? Or?
Sure.
And then like the mortar in between is like thicker.
Yeah, I see. So I feel like the defining part about the mortar often is that it's a little like thicker, like it's like oozing out a little bit.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think to me, it's a really comforting pattern. I lived in New York for a long time and never saw it like that specific color of brick there. I think, like when I was young growing up in Logan Square, that's on all the buildings around me were, that pattern. So it's a comforting little pattern.
Is it?
For the viewers, Rich is scrolling through
This
his phone.
is great for audio.
Looking for, I presume, his own house.
So is it kind of like this one?
That's exactly.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. That's my favorite.
That is it exactly. Yes.
Yes.
So I don't know, man. I don't know how you can get that image to your listeners, but that's the one. I love it.
Yeah, it's on the side of a lot of buildings, and it's just like it's like gritty in a way, and
Sure,
like
yeah.
old.
Yeah.
It's not like perfect. It's not trying to be something it's not. It's
No,
just
I'm sure it was just like slapped together in a day by like 100 Irishmen.
Yeah.
And and that was that. Dude, I'm very happy that you immediately knew what I was talking about. I thought that was going to be the deep cut, but I guess not.
I don't know. We're just thinking alike here.
Yeah, that's very good.
What's your proudest moment as a Chicagoan?
My proudest moment as a Chicagoan definitely has to be the first Women's March in 2017. I've, ever since like Occupy Wall Street, I've been to a ton of protests and marches, rallies, that kind of like political events like that. And that first Women's March had such a different atmosphere and feel than any event that I've been to since. It was just incredibly positive and fun. Like, a lot of these political things that I'll go to, I feel like anger is the prevailing emotion, and
Okay.
which is completely cool. Like anger is a very useful tool. But, I think at that time, like the day after Trump takes office, we needed, it needed to be positive, we it needed to swing in the other direction. After Trump won, like it was easy to, personally, I'm thinking like, man, I knew that the problems that this country had were bad, but I didn't know that they were that bad. And, just kind of like this disillusioned sense of like, where am I, who am I living around? What is this country? And I think, more disappointing than the 60 million people who voted for Trump are the 100 million people who saw him coming and said nothing. 100 million people did not vote. And in the months like after he won, but before the Women's March, that was like the number on my mind of just like, holy shit, like that many people saw Trump coming and they said nothing. They didn't give a shit. So showing up that day in January of 2017 for the Women's March, man, it was just like food for the soul. Just seeing so many people come, 250,000 Chicagoans coming out, every one of them saying, I give a shit. And it's just stuff like that I think is necessary. If anyone is out there and like has not, gone to some sort of like political rally or something like that, it's really pretty cathartic to be around people who also care. I think it's it's very useful.
If someone were to visit you from out of town, what restaurant would you take them to?
Superdog. Superdog is a hot dog stand on the northwest side, very close to Edgebrook, just on the other side of the Forest Preserve, but not in Edgebrook.
Okay.
And Superdog is this like just absolute time capsule, man. It is a hot dog stand from like the 1950s, I think, and it's not just a hot dog stand, but a drive-in.
Oh, nice.
Hot dog stand where like you drive in to these stalls and you order on the talk box and somebody comes out with a tray of your food and they like hang it on the window of your car, right? Like you tuck it in and then like you sit in your car and you eat hot dogs. It's like it's an extremely American business model. Yeah, it's really, it's like the aesthetics of the place are really cool too. It just like looks like, yeah, like something out of the 50s, and it's got these two enormous like animatronic hot dog people on top. Have you ever eaten there?
No, I don't think so.
Oh man, you've got to. It's got these two like massive animatronic hot dog people, and like the man hot dog you would say is wearing this leopard leotard, but like strung across the chest, like he's like a old timey circus strongman. and the woman hot dog has like she's got like a blue skirt and like blonde hair and like a blue bow. And like both of the hot dogs, like they wink at you as you know, like the little light bulb like winks. And yeah, so Superdog, it's, oh, I should also mention I'm a vegetarian, but still, like, you know, I would still take people to Superdog. You know, it's like that kind of place. The food is amazing. Like the hot dogs are like maybe the best hot dog I've ever had. It comes in this like little box, and they put the hot dog in first, and then they like load in all the fries on top of it. So you kind of have to, like, to get to the hot dog, you got to like dig it out through the fries. It's like an all beef hot dog, which, you know, is super good, and you know,
yeah.
And then so you can like, yeah, so you can either eat in like the tables or in your car, and it is like car centric, which means and like also because it's so old, it's acquired this like community of old car buffs who like on summer nights,
I know
just guys who like
spots,
want to go back to the 50s or whatever, like they wheel out their like 1964 Camaro or whatever and like bring it to Superdog, and they all like stand around with like, the hoods open, and like,
yeah,
you know, it's like a little like museum of cars, and it's awesome. That's in the summer. And yeah, Superdog, man, it's, even as a vegetarian, I have not eaten my last Superdog. Like, it's the nostalgia is just too far through the roof for, you know, to have given it up completely.
What's your hidden gem in the city?
My hidden gem. This is kind of like, I'm not like a big like restaurant like bars guy. I'm not the person who's going to be able to like tell you like, oh, like you go through the basement here and you come up through the alley and like you come into like this 3-table like ramen place with the best. I'm not like Anthony Bourdain. Is what I'm saying. But one like kind of event that I think deserves more attention, I'll give you that. It's like a monthly funk and soul dance party called Windy City Soul Club.
Okay.
And for the longest time they were at Empty Bottle, but I think just recently, like maybe this upcoming one might be their first at Sleeping Village.
Oh, I know that spot.
Yeah. We've seen I believe Colin's band play there. Yeah, Colin and George. Yeah, but the event itself, man, it's really awesome. It's just like DJs spinning vinyls of like old soul and funk from like, you know, mid 60s to early 70s. And it's just a great atmosphere, you know, like I love to dance, but the idea of like going to like River North or something, like some River North club is like extremely off-putting. And you know, even sometimes like smart bar is like a little too much. So Windy City Soul Club is this great like laid back atmosphere, like this laid back like come as you are kind of like atmosphere. Just, it's really fun dancing. It's like affordable. Yeah, it's just a really great time.
You said it's monthly?
Once a month, and it's not like yeah, and I never you got to look up on their website when it is, but it's never like, it's not like the first Tuesday of every month, or it's not like
it's just, you just got to check in.
I don't know, they switched it up every month. But yeah, I think it's Sleeping Village now, and it's really great. Oh, also they do New Year's Eve's at Logan Square Auditorium.
Oh, very cool.
So yeah, that's a great, like, again, like if you're like trying to do something on New Year's Eve, but like you don't like the usual scenes or whatever, like you don't feel like going to clubs or bars or whatever, like it's just great dancing. And on New Year's Eve, like up until midnight, so you know, for those first couple hours, they're playing a lot of like funk and soul that like everybody knows, like Stevie Wonder, Jackson 5, that kind of thing. And then as soon as midnight happens, like then that's when they go back to their like their regularly scheduled programming of just like stuff you've never heard of, but it's amazing.
Yeah.
So Windy City Soul Club, that's
awesome.
It's really fun. It's not even like a hidden gem. It's popular. It's just something I think more people should know about.
What sound do you most affiliate with Chicago?
This one again, I have two answers for, and the first I think will more directly answer your question, and the second is more of just like a sound with a fun little story to it.
Okay.
So when I'm driving in my car, I listen to The Drive, which is Chicago's classic rock station, and The Drive has this promotional segment called The Drive's Daily Driver.
Okay.
Where you know, like regular listeners enter to become The Drive's Daily Driver, and what that means is that you get to pick like 10 songs that they play over the course of the day. But the best part about The Drive's Daily Driver is that there are these like little introductory segments right before like they play one of the driver's songs, where the driver themselves is, you know, introduces themselves, you know, who they are, where they're from, what they like to do in their free time. Yeah, so you get like a guy who's like yeah, this is Nicky DiMenzo. I'm a house painter in Franklin Park. In my free time, I like to grill out. I like to watch the Sox down at Comiskey. I still hang around with a lot of the guys I went to high school with, and I am The Drive. And dude, every single time my heart just swells. Like it's these, the Drive's Daily Drivers are so Chicago it hurts. And yeah, I just feel like I know every one of them. Like I've met Nicky DiMenzo. I went to school with Nicky DiMenzo or something.
Yeah.
Like I know people like that. Like it's my favorite piece of Chicago culture by far. I wish that there was like an archive or something of all of them that I could just listen to when I'm feeling down or whatever. But yeah, the Drive's Daily Driver is like a unbelievable segment. I cannot recommend it enough. The second sound that I have in mind brings it back to Edgebrook for a minute here. So when I was young, there was this, in the summers, there would be this old man who pushed this cart through the neighborhood. And the cart, it was like this old wooden cart, and it was painted green with like red trim, and there was this awning over the top of it, and in the center of the cart there was this big like stone wheel. And what this guy was, he was a knife sharpener. And so what he would do, he was like push this cart through the neighborhood, and his cart had this bell that was hanging from the the overhang, and it was like the size of a volleyball, like this brass bell that he would ring as he walked through the neighborhood, and then all the parents would scramble to
grab their knives,
grab every knife in their kitchen and run out to meet this man. So that he could sharpen your knives, and his cart was really cool. It had like this. His cart was kind of like a transformer, like the two handles. Like if you imagine the cart is like has like two like a wheelbarrow, like two like poles that he pushes. When it was time to sharpen knives, like he would push those poles like in, and they would fold into the cart, and then out would pop this like little stool that he would sit on, and like you press this pedal that would turn the wheel, and he would sit there and sharpen your knives. And my dad in particular loved this guy. He would grab like every single knife in the kitchen, like wrap it up in a dish towel and run out to meet this guy. And after a bit of talking, where my dad was telling him that like when my dad was growing up on the west side of Chicago in the Austin neighborhood, there was also an old man who would push a cart and sharpen the neighborhood's knives. And this guy goes, yeah, that was my dad, and this is his cart.
Wow.
Yeah. Like an unbelievable, like generational knife sharpening business. It's just like this slice of the old world that I feel so lucky to have witnessed.
Wow.
Yeah, that shit just doesn't exist anymore. It was amazing. So the sound of that bell is another, nice one.
Wow. In your time in the city, what music has influenced you the most?
That's a super tough one, man, because it changes so often. But I would say lately, I think what I'm drawn to most is a vulnerability and sincerity in music. So 2 artists come to mind. The first is an Australian songwriter named Julia Jacklin, who she put out an album like within the last year called Crushing. And I just think it's the best breakup album of all time. It's just like she has an amazing ability to like put into words emotions that I didn't know that I was feeling, like that kind of thing. And then the second is an artist named Adrienne Lenker, and her band is called Big Thief. And Adrienne Lenker is just a titan of songwriting, man. She is like, the stories that she tells are very vulnerable, very insightful. Her lyrics are simple, and the language isn't like steeped in like, needless metaphors or anything. It's like pretty straightforward for the most part. And she just has an amazing knack for melody, and she's an outstanding guitar player. Like, so rarely do you get like the holy trinity of insightful lyricist, beautiful voice, and technically like super skilled at guitar. It's like she's really cementing herself as like one of the all-time greats. I think they've just put out like 2 albums this year. They're both amazing. I actually just saw Big Thief. Like, they played Chicago on Friday. It was transformative.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where are they at?
I'm
on
super
Friday?
super into them. The Metro.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, that was great. Big Thief.
What's a common scene you see in your daily interaction in the city?
This one's tougher because, man, I just like no like patterns really stick out. I think the one that I can think of that might fit this is so I live like kind of close to Humboldt Park, and there's this group called the Humboldt Park Jeep Club.
You said Jeep Club?
Jeep.
Okay.
Jeep, yeah, the brand of car. And so, as you can imagine, it is a group of people who have all rallied around the fact that they all own Jeeps and they all live in Humboldt Park. And yeah, you can't miss them. They like drive through the neighborhood, and it must be like a part of the rules. Like, you need to have a big decal on your car that says like Humboldt Park Jeep Club. And everything is like in chrome, and they have like all these like needless accessories, like like a Jurassic Park style like spotlights, these big spotlights on top of their cars. But man, I just love them. Like, I love the things that unite people, and I love that it's specifically Jeep. It's not like the Humboldt Park Car Club or SUV Club or Dodge Club. It's Jeep. And man, it's just really funny. It's like if I started like the Logan Square like degree deodorant club or something, and we all just like sat in the park applying specifically degree deodorant. I love those guys. Like, every time I see them, I smile. It's really nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they're great.
If you were given secret information that Chicago would be destroyed in 1 week, what's one quality you would choose to keep to rebuild the city?
Sure. Yeah, I think I would have to choose Chicago's propensity to think big and to adapt. All throughout the city's history, it's been defined by these like really big ideas. So like the city burns down. Well, Chicago says like, okay, we're going to build it. We're going to rebuild the whole thing and we'll do it in brick this time and it's going to last. And, like the sewage is spilling out from the river into Lake Michigan. And so Chicago says, all right, let's stop that river and send it back the other way. Things are getting too crowded. So the city says, let's build our buildings up, like into the sky. All these like transformative ideas, like the stockyards, like we're gonna feed the whole country from this like couple square miles on the south side, and we're gonna put it in refrigerated cars so that it'll last, and it's doable. Like the Sears catalog, the species changing or altering idea, the idea that you don't have to be in a store to buy a store. Think about how we work now. It's like that was a transformative idea that came out of Chicago. Yeah, so like it's just Chicago's not just a city of big shoulders, but one of big ideas. So we keep that.
Keep thinking big.
Yeah, keep thinking big.
I love it.
Yeah.
What's one small thing you would do to improve your neighborhood or the city as a whole?
I don't know about small, but
again, big ideas
let's
are
go
more
big,
up
man.
your alley.
Let's go big, man. We need affordable housing, maybe like rent, maybe even rent controlled apartments. So much of what growing up in Edgebrook was in part special and really, really good because of the stability in the neighborhood. Like when you move to Edgebrook, you live there for like 20, 30, 40 years. And in that stability, there's, that's how a neighborhood gets its identity. That's how it gets its culture. That's how it passes on its values, is that stability. It's everyone sticking around and thinking as one. The ability to keep your kids in the same school and not have to move them around, like huge. That's huge. We need, if you don't want to move from your neighborhood, you shouldn't have to. Like, we should have, housing that's accessible for everywhere. Mm-hmm. And more on a superficial note, I just feel like, gentrified neighborhoods are just boring, man. Like, I feel like Lincoln Park, Lakeview, Wrigleyville, Roscoe Village, North Center, it's all just kind of like this one giant like Big Ten bar that's like
Big Ten bar.
Right? What is? I'll have to listen more to your episodes with people from those neighborhoods to maybe appreciate it more. But I think that they're a little more boring.
When people learn you're from Chicago, how do they respond, and what's your reaction?
So that depends on where I am. If I am in the United States, you get like all the usual like, oh, it's so cold there. Like, you haven't gotten shot yet. Like the, hot takes. But the interesting stuff comes out when you get outside of the country. And that's when it's like really interesting to see what parts of Chicago have filtered out into the world.
Okay.
I was in Ireland once, and I was at the top of this mountain called Crowpatrick, and I meet this Polish guy. And we're talking all the way down the mountain, and when he learns that I'm from Chicago, he rattles off the name of like 8 Polish restaurants between like on Milwaukee, between like Diversey and Irving Park, and he's telling me, you got to go to this place and order this dish because like my cousin is the cook and she's amazing. Like, so for that guy, it was like Milwaukee Avenue. I was in France, and I was playing chess with this what was he, a particle physicist, and he had never been to Chicago, but he had been to Fermi Labs, which is like this laboratory in the suburbs. It's got like, at one point it was the world's largest particle accelerator, and so that's like what he latched onto about the Chicago area. His buddy was a violin maker, and that guy was like into chess records, like the old like blues record. You meet other people who are like like a Croatian guy who like loves Tony Kukoc and like the Chicago Bulls, like Finnish people who are into Chicago house music. Like, oh man, I met this Serbian guy, in I don't remember where it was, Prague. And this guy, I tell him I'm from Chicago, and he goes, "Oh, 773-312." The area codes of Chicago, and I just was just like, what the why do you know that? And he says, for a while I was like a telemarket scammer, and I was the guy who calls to tell you that you have like a missed car payment or something and to send me money, and he just like remembered Chicago's zip code or area codes. So yeah, man, I feel like you need to get out of the country to like
get a fresh take
to really understand what Chicago, like how Chicago has affected the world, because everyone in the United States is just going to say it's cold and they're murdered here.
When you feel overwhelmed or need a mental escape but you can't leave the city, where do you go to clear your mind, Mike?
I like to walk the boulevards, so like right out of my apartment, I can hit Humboldt Boulevard and go up to Palmer Square and do a couple laps around Palmer Square, take it to Kedzie up to Logan Square, Square and Boulevard, and just like walk those, like look at the nice houses and stuff like that. I think the boulevards are like a hugely underutilized and appreciated resource in the city. Like, I don't think people realize, if you start in Logan Square at Logan Boulevard, if you using only boulevards and like the three big parks on the west side, Humboldt, Garfield, and Douglas, you can get like all the way. If you take a bike ride and do boulevards and parks all the way down to like, I think 55th, like turns into Garfield Boulevard, and then you can take Garfield Boulevard east all the way to Washington Square Park, and then from Washington Square Park you can get to Jackson Park and the lakefront, and it's just like this green ring around the city.
Have you done that before?
It's really nice. No, I have not. I've been meaning to. It's just something I like to, like look at a Chicago map and like plan a route.
Yeah.
Like, okay, look, I could go Franklin Boulevard, okay, Independence, and no, I haven't done that. I should do that maybe next summer. That's a good.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, right. 'Cause, I mean, it touches a lot. It touches like almost every side of Chicago. You get the north side, west side, south side. I think they even boulevards might even go down to like South Shore, maybe. I'm not sure, but the boulevards are really nice, and that's another like big Chicago idea, like the idea that like we should pull these green spaces into the neighborhoods.
What's something you're curious about recently?
All right, I'll tell you what the question I ask myself every day, and that is, what is it going to take for the working class of this country to push back against a government that does not represent our interests, against corporations who abuse us and destroy the environment, against a billionaire class who hoards wealth and hides trillions of dollars in offshore bank accounts, leaving the rest of us to fight over a smaller and smaller piece of the pie. Like we're at every juncture of society, we're getting squeezed. Our air is poisoned, our water is poisoned, our food is poisoned. Student debt is crippling a generation. Our police system is broken. We're fighting these endless wars, and the human cost and the billions spent on those. Our privacy is gone. We're being tracked and monitored everywhere we go online and in the real world. Wages are stagnant. 60% of the country does not have $400 for an emergency. I will say that again. 60% of the country does not have $400 for an emergency. Jesus fucking Christ, what is it going to take for something? What's going to be the catalyst for something to change? That's what I ask myself every day.
Sounds like you need to walk down those boulevards.
Man, I gotta walk down those boulevards. I gotta march. I gotta. Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
Something's got to give.
Within the past 5 years, what personal realization has improved your outlook on life the most?
I think that it is the ability to accept people, and I mean that in a few different ways. I've gotten myself in some hot water over the years with like friendships and relationships of like overstepping my boundaries and like kind of like expecting someone to change. And I think it's important to realize that people grow, at their own rates, and sometimes what I think is a problem of someone's isn't a problem at all. So I should just shut my mouth and just accept someone for all that they are and enjoy their company. So that's one way that I mean accepting people. Another one is like another thought that I have a lot in my day-to-day life is just like I'll just tell myself like, they're an adult. This person is adult. They can handle it. Like they're capable. Like if you have two friends like who have don't know each other and like you need to like leave for like 10 minutes or something to go do something, not like feeling like, oh no, like should I be there as a buffer or whatever, like smooth things over. Like no, they're adults. They can talk to each other. It's fine. Stuff like that, or like just like people are capable. They can work it out for themselves. And the last way that I mean by accepting people is kind of accepting that some people can't be helped, at least not until they want to be. And like for that I think of Donald Trump supporters, like the hardcore like 35% of America, who support us unwavering. Like the first year of the presidency, I was kind of like hopeful that, all right, like maybe, once he's in there and he's fucking shit up, like maybe people will see, maybe they'll change. But, after the Muslim ban, after the concentration camps, after 22 credible sexual assault allegations against him, after a trade war, after pulling out of Syria, like all these things, 35% is just not going anywhere. Like that is they're with him, and so you can't make any rational argument with them, and you kind of just have to accept that's okay. Like there's going to be that portion of the country who can't be helped until they feel the effects of this presidency, and then they change their tune. So accepting people. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What's something you're excited about or dream of in the future for yourself?
Man, I got a lot, and maybe it's useful to like kind of look backwards before I go look forwards. Like ages 15 to 20, just fucking around, like just no sense of direction or anything, just fucking around. 20 to 25, like kind of like starting to wake up, getting a sense of the world, the systems that are in place, like I was saying with Occupy Wall Street, just getting a better like lay of the land. And then 25 to, now 28, has more been about like taking stock of myself and taking stock of my own emotions and things that really resonate with me. Finding those things that like really just like, yeah, that's Michael. So I would say like in the near future, I think it's going to be about externalizing, kind of having an influence on the outside world and doing something, mm-hmm. Externalizing everything that I've learned in these past few years. So specifically, what does that look like? One dream, the dream that I've had since I was like a kid was, going on tour, like playing a tour. Uh-huh. I've got like, over the years like hundreds, if not like 1,000 unfinished songs, like that just accumulate. And so I would love to, I would really love to just pick an album's worth, finish those, go tour them out. Like, I don't care if I'm playing to, an empty house every night. I just really think that if I make it to the end of my life and I haven't done that, that will be disappointing. And that kind of like touring thing is a young man's game. So that's one. And what else? On a more like personal level, now it's like 28. I'm just in the last like few months starting to like feel that parental pull, like seeing kids and their parents and just being like, man, that's something I probably enjoy a lot. So maybe like in like 5 years or so, like at least like being in the relationship that maybe leads down that path, that would be nice. Another thing that I would really like to do, I just had this idea recently for we were talking about gardening, for like a parkway community vegetable garden. So like the parkways, right? Like the space in between the street and the sidewalk, that patch of grass that's like in this gray area where it's like city owned, but it's the homeowner's responsibility to take care of it. I would love to turn the the one near outside of mine into like this vegetable garden where like I could leave like a little box and people can like leave their phone number or whatever and just like say like I'm interested in cucumbers or whatever, and then I can give them a call like when their cucumbers are ready. Just like just like awesome. bring fresh food to the people, because I mean it's not that much work. Like vegetables, they grow themselves almost. You just gotta water them. Yeah. Do some weeding. It's not that much effort, and good food is important, man. It seeps into every every other aspect of your life. If you're eating well, you're feeling well, every other part of life is gonna follow that. So I would like to do like a community vegetable garden like that. And if I can't do it on the parkways, I think it would be really cool to do it on the parkways, and maybe like try to start like some movements like that of like imagine like going down the street and just seeing like every parkway, like the peppers and pickles or like cucumbers, and this one's the squash, and just like all over Chicago. I think that would be really cool. I think maybe the city would go for that. Like what do they care? That's the parkways are being attended to, and people are getting fresh produce, and it's a win-win-win for everybody. So that's an idea I've had recently. And then just to do one final one is like I mentioned with campaign finance reform. I feel like that is like the issue of our times. It is the one issue that has tentacles in every other issue in this country. Nothing is really going to be solved until we stop the flow of corporate money into politics. So if I can find a way to put some time volunteering for some organization that works on that issue, that'd be really nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Mike, I love this conversation.
Thanks.
It was so good.
Too. It was fun.
Thanks again for sitting down with me.
Oh, my pleasure, dude.
Thanks for listening to Rich Conversations. And again, thanks to Mike Hickey for the lovely conversation. Have a cheerful day.